If your business depends on 100 open tabs, late night DMs, and a to-do list that you never seem to finish, this is going to change everything. I'm going to show you how to automate your business from lead capture to closed deals using just one tool. No Zapier chains, no API setups, and no coding. After trying over 15 tools, I finally settled on Go High Level to simplify my business. I've used these exact methods for myself and my clients to build systems that work behind the scenes so they don't have to. But before we jump into Go High Level and start building, let's talk about the biggest mistake I see. Now, I used to build out workflows before I even knew what my process was. I'd slap together forms, automation, tags, hoping it would somehow work, but it never did. It felt like building a house and rearranging the plumbing every time someone knocked on the door. It wasn't until I mapped out the journey from lead to customer step by step that the whole system clicked. So before we open Go High Level, let's map this out together. Here's a simple version of a customer journey that you can customize later. So it starts when they opt in. Then with the emails that you're going to send them automatically, there will be a link to click. You want to track if they click that link to that page. Now let's say you were selling a product or booking a call. The first page here might be your sales page, and then they click through to the order page or maybe the book a call page. And then from there, you're tracking, did they purchase or maybe book a call. So this would be the simplest way to start this. And what this is going to allow you to do is get just a snapshot to see how your pipeline is functioning. And you'll know right off the bat, what you need to address. If you have nobody opting in, well, you need to fix that. If people aren't clicking through to the first page, well, that shows you that your emails need to be improved. If nobody's clicking through to the second page where they can order or book a call, that means the copy on this page needs to be fixed. And if no one's buying, then there's probably something going on your checkout page. Now, you can always make this more complex, but start with something like this. This will become your pipeline, which is the visual foundation for every automation you build. Now, most people build their pipeline based on what Go High Level gives them by default or maybe some snapshot they got, but that's backwards. You don't want to fit your business into someone else's system. You want a system that fits your business. And trying to run your business without a mapped customer journey is like trying to navigate a jungle without a map. You hope you're headed in the right direction, but most of the time you're just going in circles. So before we touch a single automation, let's take that map we just made and use it to build a pipeline inside Go High Level. That way you'll know exactly where every lead is at all times. So let me show you how to do that. Now, inside Go High Level, you're going to click over here to Opportunities. Then from there, if it looks like this, you could hit Create New Pipeline here, or you could click on Pipelines and hit Create New Pipeline. Now, you can name this whatever you want. We'll just name it Customer Journey for this test. And now you're going to just name those individual stages. To start, just mirror exactly what you sketched up. So the first stage will be opt-in. Then this one will be click through to page 1. Then we'll say click through to page 2. And then this one could be a purchase or booked a call, depending on what your sales process looks like. Now you just go ahead and hit save on that. So now if you go back to opportunities, you'll have a little drop down. And again, you can make as many pipelines as you want, but now we have one. Now that your pipeline is built, the next question is simple but crucial. How do people actually enter it? Because a pipeline without leads is just a fancy list. Imagine you're trying to collect rainwater in the middle of the jungle with no container. You've got all this opportunity falling from the sky, traffic, attention, interest, but if you're not set up to capture it, it all just disappears into the dirt. And that's what happens when you don't have a clear system to collect a lead's data. People might be clicking your stuff, watching your content, and even showing interest, but if you're not capturing something, like their name, email, or phone number, they never enter your world. So you have no follow-up, no sale, and no automation. The system only starts working when you collect the info that triggers it. Now, Go High Level gives you several ways to capture a lead's info and drop them into your system automatically. Let me show you a few examples so you can see what's possible. You've got a form, and this could be used on a funnel, a landing page, a website, or you could use it individually. You've got a chat widget you could use on your website, a calendar booking page, a survey or a quiz. And you could also do manually entries, either individual or bulk uploads. You can also automate imports from Facebook lead forms and other tools. Now, all of these can work, and you'll probably end up using most of them as your system grows, but if you're just getting started, there's one method that's dead simple and just works: a form inside a funnel. Now, this is the easiest way to start capturing leads today. And let me show you how to build a simple funnel in Go High Level, drop in a form, and connect it directly to your pipeline so every new lead gets tracked automatically. So let's look at how we build that out. So we'll start by going to Sites. Now, if you don't have a funnel already built, you can come up here and click this New Funnel button, and you can create, from blank. You could use AI to help you create it. There may be a slight charge for this in the system, and it's okay. I haven't been super impressed with it, or you could choose a template. So from here, I'm gonna just open one I've already created, and you'll notice in this funnel, I have 2 pages. So the first one is our opt-in page, the second one is the thank you page. And the thank you page is pretty simple. Here, this is a thank you page for if we gave some sort of lead magnet. We're just telling them, hey, your guide's on your way, check your email. You could have a sub-headline, again, tying in why it's important. We'll cover a little bit more about headlines and sub-headlines later. And then, a reminder here to check their spam or promotions folder. Essentially, we want them to go in there and look for this email to get their guide, and then you could throw an image, of your guide or, something else. I kind of like these little cartoon images. Again, this was for a different client, this mock-up that I made. But again, that's the basic idea of the thank you page, is to get them to go check their email. The more people that check, that open your emails, that reply to you, that do those things, it shows a signal to the email providers that you send good emails, so ups your deliverability rate. So that's a pretty simple page there. Now, on this first landing page, whether this is gonna be for a lead magnet or they're just going to get on your list, you want to make them pretty simple. So this is kind of the skeleton of one. You can put an image in here. You've got your headline and sub-headline, which we'll talk about maybe in this video, maybe in another one. But the basic idea here is we've got headline, sub-headline, a few bullet points of why it's important to them, and then creating a form. So here it says we don't have any forms yet. So we'll actually need to create a form. So real quick, let me show you how to do that. So staying in Sites, we're going to go to Forms, and we're just going to hit Create New. Again, depending on what location you're in, you may or may not need these, but High Level sets them up for you. Now, for me, when I come in, I typically, if I'm just going for straight opt-ins, I'm just looking for first name and email, and depending on your use cases, you might want to keep this section, or you could delete it. Up to you. So for this example, I'll delete these just to make the form look really clean. And then on here, you could also come down here on the left side and grab a text element. And this gives you a little bit of ability to, say something like, get your free guide. Again, we'll talk about the copy that we put on this later, but you can put kind of another headline, sub-headline on this, and then hit save. Let's name it opt-in and just hit save on that. All right, now that that's saved, we can jump back into our funnel, back up here on the top, funnels. We'll go back in that funnel we were working on and come down and click edit. Now from here, we can go ahead and grab our opt-in form, and it's gonna pop up. Now, it's real important right here in this button actions. So you could choose use action from form builder. And what that is gonna do is in that place where we just set up the form, whatever action you have it take in there, it's going to take that action. You could also have it go to a specific URL, so if you wanted to drive them to a separate funnel, but the simplest is always just using go to next step. And then you're going to hit save. It'll probably have an update SEO, hit save again. And then once you're actually connected to your domain, you'll actually hit publish on this. When they fill out this form and hit that button, they're going to go to the thank you page, which gives them instructions on, hey, go check your email. This one's already set up, but if you wanted to add things, you basically have a few categories. So you've got these, you can see here it's highlighted. This is a section. Inside of sections, you've got columns and column rows. So depending on those, like if I hit this plus on the green, that's going to give me a whole new section. And I can add a full width, wide, medium, small. I typically go full width. Then in here, it's gonna have me add a row. So this is gonna be the blue section, which I could add a single column or a dual column. And then each side of these, I can add elements like headlines. If I wanna add another one, I can add a sub-headline. You could add a paragraph, right? And then in each of these, you've got your control panel on the left where you can control, text alignment. You can control your colors. You can control your background. You can control all the little things in this sidebar. And then if you're like, oh, I don't need that, you can delete it. You can also come up here and say, oh, you want to duplicate this section. You can copy it, which gives you a clone of that section. So let's say you had a button or something you wanted, you could clone it and move it around. You can also drag things around here. So you could move them around however you would like just by dragging and dropping. So if you've used any kind of template builder, this one is pretty simple to use. And up here you can also preview what your mobile is going to look like. So this was an old image that I had on here, so let me delete that. Now one thing to note on these is in your advanced settings here, you can show and hide on mobile. So I could hide that image on mobile. So sometimes you may have images that you've got to do some formatting for the desktop version that doesn't look good on mobile. So whenever that happens, I would recommend just duplicating this image, formatting one for mobile and one for desktop, and then hiding. So if this one I formatted it for mobile, I would go ahead and hide that on desktop. And if this one I formatted for that, I would hide that on mobile, if that makes sense. So I don't actually want to do that on this one just yet. But that's the general idea there. Now, before you actually go and make this landing page, there's 3 quick rules to make sure your funnel actually converts. You want to make sure you have a clear outcome, and you do this by telling people what they're getting. Not just something like schedule a call, but the results, like get a custom growth plan. You need to give them a reason to act now. Even a small urgency prompt like bonus offer for the first 10 clients gives people a reason to move. And you want to make sure that you have one clear action. Don't clutter the page. One headline, one form, one goal. Remember, simplicity converts. Your funnel's job isn't to be clever, it's to be clear. So now that you've got your funnel made and your pipeline is ready, now it's time to make the system move. And this is where things start getting powerful, because we're about to build your first real automation so that when someone opts in, they'll be tracked, tagged, and routed automatically. Think of your business like a train station. Your funnel is where people arrive, but if there's no system telling them where to go next, they just stand around. And that's what happens without automation. Leads come in, but they stall. They don't get follow-up, they don't get onboarded, and they don't become customers. Automation is like your conductor. It makes sure every person gets where they need to go on time with the right experience, without you manually managing every step of the process. So let's take a look at how to create your first automation that ties into this funnel we just built. So in here, we'll just go ahead and hit back, and then we're gonna go to automation. Now, whenever you're first opening it, and this is a brand new account I just opened for this, you're gonna go ahead and hit create workflow. Now you have 2 options here. You can select a recipe or start from scratch. I'd encourage you to take a look through some of the recipes and just see how they're built. Sometimes it makes sense to use them, but for this one, we'll be just starting from scratch. Now from here, we're gonna go ahead and just name this first one Welcome Sequence, and you can turn it on and hit save. And then we're gonna go back. And you'll see why that's important here in just a second. Then we're gonna go ahead and hit this blue button to create another workflow and start from scratch. And this one here is gonna be our opt-in. Now you can name these whatever you want. How you name them doesn't matter. You just want to name them in a way that helps you keep them organized. So the first thing we have to do here is to add a trigger. All the trigger is it tells this workflow, hey, when should I start it? We know based on the action they just did on that funnel page that they filled out a form. So we can just come up here and search form. So here we go, form submitted. So click on that. It's gonna be form submitted. And then I would say, okay, this is my opt-in form. And then we go down to add filters. Again, this workflow, this name right here is just to help you keep it organized. So hit select filter, form is, and then we're gonna select a form. Right now we only have one. As you grow your business, you might have, 5, 6, maybe a few dozen forms. So you'll wanna keep these organized. So bam, I collect my opt-in form. Now I hit save on that trigger. So now anytime someone submits that form, they're gonna get added to this automation as long as I have it turned on here. So now this is turned on, so anytime somebody opts in, they're gonna come into this funnel. So there's a few things that we wanna have happen. The first is we wanna make sure this is tied to our pipeline. So we can come up here and search in opportunity. So we can create or update an opportunity that will reflect in the pipeline. So we're going to go ahead and select our pipeline that we created earlier. That was the customer journey. And then we got to tell them what stage do we want to put them in. So here we're just going to put them in the opt-in stage. Now from here you can use these custom values and custom fields. So you could go to the contact and let's just do you could do first name, do a space, and then let's do their email. So that's what's going to show up in the tag. You could give it a source, opt-in form, Facebook, whatever you want to put there. If you know what they're worth, you could put a dollar amount here, and you could select a status. Now these right here, I normally leave these unchecked. This is if you want to have duplicate opportunities in a pipeline, you could check that. You could leave this turned off. And this one right here, this will basically let your contacts move from right to left in your pipeline. Normally you just want them moving left to right, but if you wanted to allow that, you could do that. Again, most of the time you can leave that on, and then you're going to hit save. So they're triggered, they're getting updated. Now the next thing we might want to do is add a tag. And this will just help us sorting in the future. So boom, you could say opt-in and then name it whatever the lead magnet was, or they opted in for your newsletter, whatever it was for you, and add that tag. So now you're adding a tag. You could even in this, you could name it, add tag opt-in, and hit save. Now you're going to want to send an email. So send an email. We'll look at that in a future video, but you're going to need that. So I'll just put a little placeholders here to let me do it. So this will be the email delivering the thing you just promised in the landing page. Now from here, I like to put in a wait step, and you could say 1 day, let's just say 30 minutes. So we're gonna wait for 30 minutes, save, and then we're gonna add them to another workflow. So we're gonna add the workflow, and we're gonna add them to that other workflow that we made. So the reason I do it like this is, let's say you had several lead magnets. You don't have to rebuild out your entire welcome sequence on each one of these. So you could essentially, once you had this one built for one lead magnet, say potentially I might have a lead magnet for this video that gives you a little tutorial on what I'm doing. If I did make one, there's a link in the description below. But essentially what that lets you do is you can go back here and then essentially just duplicate this workflow. Then you could not that one. Let's duplicate the opt-in. So duplicate the workflow, and we could say, opt-in for whatever it is you're going to do. And now all you have to do is come in here, change your tag, change your email. I think this would be the same, and then change the form. Right? So if you just made a different form for a different lead magnet, you basically, this allows you to quickly scale those front-end automations, and everybody's getting put in the same welcome sequence. So you can aggregate all that data together. And another thing that we could add in here is a system notification. If you want to be notified whenever you get a lead, or in any automation, you just go ahead and pick this workflow action, and it could be an email, a in-system notification, or an SMS. I typically like the emails. Fill that out, notify. You could use these custom values, contact, first name, opted in, right? So that's a very simple version. I'll show you in the future how to make these really slick, but at a simple level, now you're getting notified that you got a new lead. Again, you got to have a subject line. And again, you can pick a particular user or all users. Again, up to you. If you wanted to do a particular user, then one thing you would need to add in here is to assign to user. So again, I don't have any user set, but you could essentially assign this to a specific rep to manage these, and then that notification would go to the assigned user. So that is one use case. One thing on tags, you can use tags to track behavior. And tags are kind of like wristbands in our train station. They help you know who's who, where they came from, and what they need next. You can use tags to mark entry points like they opted in from funnel A. You can use them to track behavior like they booked a call, watched a video, viewed a page. A tag could be a trigger to start a workflow. It could also be used to remove them from a workflow. So tags are simple but powerful, and they'll become one of the best tools you have for managing your leads and segmenting your system. So once someone opts in, the first few messages they get will shape how they feel about your brand and whether they take the next step. And that's where your welcome sequence comes in. It builds trust, delivers value, and opens the door for everything that comes next. The welcome sequence is the first impression. It's like inviting someone into your home. Now, you wouldn't just toss them a freebie and walk away. You'd greet them, show them around, offer something useful, and let them know what to expect. Your welcome sequence is your digital version of that first impression, and it sets the tone for your entire relationship. So let's take a quick look at the welcome sequence. Now, we already set it up, and people that come in and opt in are going to get automatically added to this. So we don't need a trigger. It's being triggered from another workflow. Now, essentially all we need here is a chain of emails. So we'll come in here, send email. Now, don't worry about what to put in these just yet. I'll show you in a future video. But again, the idea here is we want to give them a great experience as they come in, letting them know, why they're here, what they should expect, and what's next. If we have resources we can share, like one good tip is if you have several lead magnets in maybe your second email, give them the rest of your lead magnets. So essentially here with this welcome sequence, you can set your spacing how you like, but a good thing is maybe every 1 to 2 days. So let's just say wait 2 days. So now we've got this set up, and essentially, it's like, okay, what is the right length for a welcome sequence? Well, as long as it's more than 0, you're on the right track. But I would say 3 to 5 would probably be the minimum, and you can build out more if you like. So a quick way to just get your system here is you can come in here and just copy all actions from here. So now we've got 3 emails set up. Now you could at the end right here add a tag, add a contact tag, and we'll just say, completed welcome sequence. Right, so again, this is just another way to keep track of, what journey people have gone on in this system. We'll look at how they move through the funnel using things like trigger links and things like that in a future video. But for now, I just want to get you this win so you can get this first part set up. Now, one quick note on these emails, there's basically 2 ways that we can write these outside from what we actually put in them. You can write them in this little text editor right here, which if you're just getting started, this is probably a great way to start. Again, you can just type it in here, you can copy from a Google Doc. One thing to note, I would come down here and use this little test email function. Make sure they look good on your computer and in mobile before you send them. Sometimes if you copy paste from a Google Doc, the formatting can be a little weird, especially with bullet points. But you also have these little custom buttons out here. The big one is this tag. So if you wanted, to make sure it had their first name, you could put, hi, and then come up to contact and put first name with a comma. Now remember, on that form, we just asked for their first name, so we should have their first name. As long as they filled that in, we're gonna get their first name. So that's just one way you can use this custom field. And in here, there's custom fields. There's also custom values. So custom fields are relevant for the contact. So each contact or lead in your system is managed, their details are custom fields. If you have things specific to your account as the business owner, those would be custom values. So if you had several employees, you could come in here. I don't think I actually have any set up. Right here we go, custom values. I don't have any set up, but it could be things like username, your address, appointment times, things like that. So you can go ahead and hit save on that. So that's the first way to do the email. The next one is using an email template, which these can be beneficial because you can get all your emails in one spot where you can go and easily edit them, and you don't have to go into your workflows. It does take a little bit more time to set up initially, so that's why I recommend using the in workflow email created, but then after that you can come in here and create your templates. So if you want to do them in HTML, you can do that. If you want to drag and drop, or if you just want a plain text editor, you can do that. And this is just going to give you an email template. So let's just save this one. I won't actually go through filling it out right here. I just want to show you how it works. So now if I go back into my welcome sequence and I go to this first email, I can come and select this template. So now I can see I have a template here instead of that email, and you could actually come in and edit it right here. So that is the two ways that you can actually manage your emails. So once your emails are in, just go ahead and hit save and publish. Then you'll want to go to that form, fill it out, and make sure everything's firing correctly. So if you've been following along, you've just done what most people never do. You've started building a real system. You've got a pipeline, a funnel, and an automation set up to deliver your lead magnet and start a welcome experience, and it all runs without you. And this is exactly how I started. One funnel, one workflow, one email. And as leads started coming in, I started adding follow-ups, nurture emails, and automations for every stage of the journey. And each message had a hook, story, and point, and one clear CTA. That CTA would send people into another funnel to book a call, grab an offer, or join a wait list. And once you've got that kind of structure, you're no longer chasing leads, you're guiding them. So yes, what you built today is powerful, but it's just the beginning. You can now add more emails, more workflows, and more ways to move people forward. But none of that matters if no one ever opts in. So if you want to learn a simple framework that'll increase your conversion rates and get you more opt-ins, then watch this video next.